The recording. There it is. Well, hello everyone. This is the first group Zoom above ground press reading featuring poets from 5 cities across 2 countries, San Francisco and Ukiah. Did I pronounce that correctly? California, Brooklyn, and New York, and up here in Toronto, lovingly hosted by myself in Ottawa. For those who don't know, Above Ground Press has produced more than 1,300 items, roughly 2/3 of which have been single-author chapbooks since I founded the press back in July 1993. And I'm already working on plans for an anniversary event to be held in Ottawa on Saturday, August 10th, to celebrate 31 years. So that gives you all of you time to make like travel plans if you wish to come to Canada's glorious capital. The first of our 5 readers is Micah Ballard out there in San Francisco. He is the author of over a dozen books of poetry, including Waifs and Strays from City Lights, Afterlives, Bootstrap Press, The Me Show Notebook, FMSBW, whatever that means, Cruise, Bootstrap Press, Selected Prose, 2018-2019, Blue Press, Evangeline Down, Some Ugly Duckling, Daily Vigs, Birds and Beckets, Vesper Chimes, Gas Meter, Muddy Waters, State Champs, and Negative Capability in a Verse of John Wiener's Bootstrap Press. He lives in San Francisco with poet Sunny Lynn Thibodeau, their daughter Lorca, and co-edits August Press and Lou Gallery Editions. He is launching Busy Secret, his first chapbook of Above Ground, which came out earlier this year. Although he did co-edit Guest, the Journal of Guest Editors, number 21, Castle Grayskull, with Garrett Caples 2 years ago. So I will give it to you, Micah.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me?
Yep,
Okay,
I
cool.
can.
I just want to say thanks, Rob. Like you're the best. We never met. You did this awesome book here. And I'm really appreciative of it. And I love meeting like great poets and publishers who I've never met, but we have great correspondence. And uh, so I'm just going to read from this book. I'm going to try to keep it quick because we have a lot of readers. So I'm going to start now. And I'm just going to read from the book, probably like into it, etc. Francis Farmer, embroidering Prank's delicate helix hand. Please forgive my radiance of new and ferocious types. This is your tomb too. The remote control is for everyone. In the sky, there's no competition. Cigarettes smoke themselves. All the clouds could care less. Banter is only banter. It polishes its own secrets. When the heavenly demons show up and come back, where will you be? Please keep next to me. Name value. Somehow made up, I diverted from the catalog by deficiency of imagination. Now it rules over everything. Befriending the belligerent, toasting them, roasting them. We like to trade helmets and swing the hijacks back to the visitors. Who doesn't like to jump on cop cars? In the furlough morgue, I polish their trophies and try to stay in my own lane. Everything I used to rely on feels forced, and heavy humor makes me feel like a jock. I've always been on academic probation. All the aging aristocrats thought I was too enthusiastic and said I didn't know how to read poetry. So I started writing it, a lick for a lick. So I started writing it, a lick for a lick. Stranded on my gambling ship. When I put on a mask, the plumes still undulate. When I take it off, I can't recognize myself. Sometimes I think I do, but all the work takes so long to pay off. Okay, all the chintz. Poison pen, thrower of horrible parties, sudden guest able to wilt bouquets by breathing, telekinetic magic marker eyes, channeling the legacy of a jungle mansion, finesser of people, numbed by the older breeds, carrying the torch of undercurrent birdom, shaper of evil, taking your own kind out of the game, pure Sunday best of a future past, Colt jewel derivative by the dozens. This is a fun one. This is written in Alamo Square right here. Just taking a walk. Interlocutory? I don't even know how to say the word. Arrested for telling fortunes without a license, I orient my services using stunt dummies around actual crypts. The bulbs are infrared and led to a sunken garden, disguised as a tent in the sky. So the benevolent thespians can speak again. I am nominated to be one of their levitators, a noble beast nipping generously from the land of limbo. Turns out toasting the galaxies is training. Who brought the Wanda tipping table anyway? Where are the gowns, 100 bones per fitting? I am not trained, but can connect you. Among the gullible, I'm on a word fast. They say I have the psychic facility of a dog. All right, we're almost done, guys. Moscow on the Hudson. Anything misleading, count me in. The poems are diamonds cut for consignment. The heist, anyone unknown. Professional courtesy, once you're pro, you're gone. Once you're not, you are. The first words on a map flash same as last. In the bloodletting, they cash you in to carry you out. Call the favors in. I'm ready to dip it out and enjoy a new reputation. This thing of ours, this thing of mine. There's no advantage pretending. Whatever I had to become, I became. Parlor games. Thumb wrestler, lousy gangster, asshole bouncer, crank caller, aggressive florist, and heist accomplice of the secret trysting, my tongue says what you want it to. Whatever swagger left is for someone else. I only translate thoughts to watch conversation destroy itself. There are lecherous butlers, the kinds found in books, half disguised as spoofs. They mock the material and say weird shit like, upon the doers that the doer deserve. As a foreign legionnaire to their arrogant legs, I lay unguarded, throned below. Before success, we used to run together. Now I embalm the times by promoting your face. A snake draped in gold is still a snake. All right, two more. For an out of contrariness, I southern bailed it out. They're all adjectives anyway, and are supposed to make you feel modified, not half decided or too conceited to slum around. You know, coincidence bumps. So some nouveau can think you're attainable, and then you pay them back, good and hard, almost bloodthirsty, veiled and transparent with a thick smile, not like Cobra Commander, but definitely a snakeskin leash. And our Lawrence of Arabia friend exchange sounds like an old heaven stuck in the rafters. Try these bruised amateur capsules, or we can go for a soporifics. I'm only allergic to Christmas trees and lions. Skullcaps, nightshade, and mandrake get a pass. There's too many dispensaries popping up anyway, most teeming with undesirables, swelt as hell, and blacklisted by the cloudful. They keep saying for a mayor of Cost Streets, I have a weak whistle. And here's the last one. VHS Bonfire.
Sorry.
No, that's cool. I don't know where that one came from. Stain the poems onto skin and send them to their shores. Smell them burn into the edge of somewhere. Off a balcony at Edinburgh Castle, where a headdress of dead carnations come to life. As a last payphone in the city, I get passed up and take a long straw up polk in the rain. A neck of boring pearls attract innocents. Teach them how to pop a clutch downhill and avoid street corner zombies with clumsy jolts of stately ease. Arrive in an oblong room free at Chateau Tivoli. Watch the daemons leap from mirror to mirror. Feel them, then unfeel them. Wake up in the same starring role. Never above forgery, almost at home. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thanks, fella. That was great. It's always good to have a good opener. All right, I'll go back to my notes.
I made it.
You made it, fella. Our second reader is Melissa Eleftherion. She's the writer, librarian, and a visual artist. Born and raised in Brooklyn, she holds degrees from Brooklyn College, Mills College, and San Jose State University. That's a lot of degrees to hold. They're the author of the full-length poetry collections Field Guide to Autobiography from 2018 and Gutter Rainbows from 2024. So we'll have 12 chapbooks, including Trauma Suture from Above Ground in 2020 and Sunflower Spell Poems for All 2022. Her work has been widely published and featured in venues like Quarter After Eight, Six Finch, Entropy, and Barron magazine. Melissa now lives in Northern California, where she manages the Ukiah Branch Library, curates the Loba Reading Series, and serves as Poet Laureate Emeritus of the City of Ukiah. Recent work is available at her website, apoetlibrarian.wordpress.com, and she's launching Abject Sutures, her third chapbook with Above Ground Press, which came out earlier this year. It's now your turn, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Rob. And thank you so much for hosting and for coordinating all of us Rascal Poets. I'm going to admit someone else to from the waiting room. Okay. Yeah, so I'm here to launch Abject Sutures, and it just came out a few months ago. I will read a few poems from this, and then I will read a few poems from Little Ditch, which is another chapbook that Rob lovingly published in 2018, I want to say. And because I have a few poems that are in this book that will be out in my new book, Gutter Rainbows, which is coming out in a couple months. So these are from Abject Sutures, and I'll say that each of these sutures is an erasure from a page in one of the Dollenganger series, which is basically the Flowers in the Attic series from V.C. Andrews. So each poem is one page erased from that book. And it starts with a poem that had nothing to do with V.C. Andrews or Flowers in the Attic, a poem called Shell. 6 little explosions under a glass spell, how we're taught to contain the abject, little burst sutures in ammonite. 3rd suture, the blood time, I knew a violent house. 5th suture, childhood of scattered clocks, contradicting my distress. I saved insecurity for the woods. 7th suture, family was a secret war, married to television. The poems look like this on the page. They're like exploded. So if that gives you a sense, it can be disorienting to hear poems read aloud sometimes. And so it's nice to have a visual. 15th suture. Love was a treacherous undercurrent, a flare, a fist, a belt. Often I adored the trivial piano. 19th suture. How I turned on, clutch and flash, shame so mighty, the river seized. And I'll read one more from this book. 28th suture. I follow irresistible goals, competition, a circus of lonely power, while we statues tell every desire. Roses haven't loved. My dog is collaborating with me. I don't know if you can hear her in the background. And I will end with one poem from Little Ditch, which is again coming soon from Gutter Rainbows. Ammonite Sonnet. The ammonite, an index of sutures. I got tired of cataloging them, hermetically sealing little traumas, afraid they'd get to know one another go boom. Little mother catastrophes. Instead, I smashed little rocks to bits in a ditch. Each shard a memory, released pressure. From stomach, the common burial ground, the cavity of accumulation. Each little box coated in dust and feelings. Each glass stone chamber not really secret. I get ready to shatter the discretions. I open my palms. No explosions, no pain. Coalesce, little traumas. Wrap your wounds around each other. A chrysalis, blood. A becoming. Of feathers, of air, of fire. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Melissa, who has a name that is fun to say out loud and fun to write down. These are important things. Our third reader is Amanda Deutch. She, the poet born and raised in New York City. She is the author of several chapbooks, including Bodega Night, Pigeon Riot from Above Ground 2020, and Surf Avenue and 29th Street, Coney Island from 2018. Her poetry has been published in the Brooklyn Rail, the New York Times, Oversound, the Rumpus, Cimarron Review, and in many other journals and magazines. An artist book collaboration with Sarah Nichols, Wild Anemone, is forthcoming in 2024. Deutch lives in Brooklyn, where she often looks for weeds and flowers in the cracks of the sidewalks. And she is launching New York Ironweed, which came out earlier this year, her second above ground press title. There you go. Look at that. Look at all that. That was my day.
Thanks, Rob. So nice to be here and to be reading with all of these new poets that I've never met before. Melissa and I have corresponded, but I've actually never met you in person. And Rob, I just can't thank you enough. And I don't know how you do all that you do for poets. It's amazing. And I'm going to preface this with a little bit. I don't usually do this, but this collection, New York Ironweed, is part of a larger project. So I'm just going to read a tiny bit about it to contextualize it. As gentrification continues to swallow the city's whole, giving people an opportunity to stop, look, and listen to the wilderness and weeds along cities' edges is a radical act. Habitat loss, pesticides, and climate change are threatening insect populations worldwide at an alarming rate. We're losing pollinators at a time when we're demanding more and more pollination. Humans are dependent upon pollinators for our food supply. In 2019, Biological Conservation reported that 40% of all insect species are declining globally and that a third of them are endangered. Accordingly, with the threat to bees, monarchs, and other essential pollinators drawing attention to the weeds and native plants all around us that feed these pollinators demonstrates the importance of local flowers and weeds to our survival as a species in a time of climate disaster. And the poems, each poem's language decomposes by the end of the poem. So they get kind of weird. So I've actually never read these out loud, and there's going to be some weird ass sound play here. So let's see. New York Ironweed, starfruit, center point. These jeans never fit me. Coconut milk, ginger, sea salt. Same. You gave me the wrong size jeans. Softly, wash me, watch me eat the fruit. Sofjij, eduit, sidvidgyi. Field bindweed. You know what they say. They say, Dancha, sow it up, plant the seed. Who cares? On the television, they all talk, and so do you. Some simple semblance of Daphne's, but invasive. You may spend all your lives pulling this one up, and so what? Eastern redbud. Claim my seat, my sea, claim it as another, though it is all me. The sea, seat, my other eye, you know, has to be a multiverse. When the rain so doesn't stop, and you are on an island, archipelago, not of our imagination, and you have lived on another island with no radio, but similar weather with another eye. The sea was not ours, not mine at all when I was over there, but here it is, ours now. Smooth hawksbeard. By the roadside, neglect me and I will thrive. Vacant, abundant, diurnal. Alongside the road, I will feed you what you need. Dohihi, shaki, do it. Hey, would you? Henbit, eat the weeds and all the other things too. You taste good and have no known side effects. Tubular, right on, rad, pink, red, purple, you invade me. If you know, you know. That said, let's sasu sesre. And since Micah read something with swagger, I'm going to read one of my poems that has the word swagger. I'll match your swagger. Bee balm, you got that invisible inner swagger. I want what you have. A few more. Common mugwort, diurnal, nocturnal, yellow-crowned night heron. Zip up the sky. Mingle and mumbo with ribbed mussels and fiddler crabs. I'll mingle with your mumbo. I'm going to read two more. Dense blazing star, you announce me. A corporeal crop of whistles and chirps moves the dial in sync. This is the time when pain is fruitful and swooning is ultra acceptable. Tell me, did you find what you were looking for at the supermarket? Lau, Ais, Alsk, we owned us. And the last one I'm going to read is Field Horsetail. Don't tell me to be someone's mother, someone's wife. I scrub my own pots since the dinosaurs. I eat what I want and look, see, can you? This is more than enough. I say that without edges, with softness and surrender, sunning my face.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're getting through this. Look at that. We're doing very well. And our next reader is Katie Ebbitt. She's a poet, psycho-behavioralist living in New York City. She's the author of the chapbooks Another Life from Counterpath in 2016, Para Anna, Impatient 2019, and Air Sign, Creative Writing Department 2024. Second, her first full-length book will be released by Keith LLC. And today she's launching Hysterical Pregnancy, which is her first above ground press title, came out earlier this year. There you go. Up to you, Katie.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you so much to everyone. Rob, again, I just want to echo the work you do is so sensational and enviable in some ways. Your executive functioning certainly rivals my own, and I aspire to be you.
It's fun to make stuff. I have no choice.
You have no choice. Okay, well, I'm glad you have no choice. And this is the book, and I'm going to read from this Hysterical Pregnancy. To start here is invisible. Changeable borders, a threshold, the vessel, the stomach. See what you come out of, came out with, now bloodied by consummation. To walk public ground, see a middle name cut in stone. The mothering, the cementation, to christen oneself with a love, greater first love, love making new bodies etched in stone, the final ingot. To watch as a crow picks up her stick, to puncture a colony of ants, to be within fragile tininess, to reach the moment of opening to the other, to reach potential, reach through myself into another, to say yes to degradation, repeat yes, yes. Show me a careful person. Show me the brutal and blameless. I opened a cabinet to find a rotting bird. I lied about the sympathetic. I couldn't take back time. Instead, I erased the clock, saw myself burned as a silhouette, beloved in the violence. Walked over rosary beads whittled into nails. Hail Mary, full of shit, rotten is the fruit of your womb. Waited for decapitation. I've paid for the sins of multiple bodies with my own. My affairs, the affairs of women, marked by the cajoling sadness of the devil. That the devil does not exist, I've been so persuaded. When in the woods you pull up your shirt to expose the bud, when you want to remain a child and time says no, when you are perfectly round with your knees against your teeth, the scattering light in outlined form, the day I lost half my sight, when love was taken from me and given back as flowers from the earth, when the stem is broken and the dirt refuses you down, when the room is white and the instrument silver, when your legs part and you investigate a gaze, you give a face so close to your own. When I look at the screen and see an ocean, fish bowled in a womb, when the ocean is not filled with water, but air, when I pray to him, the saint of fertility, the saint is a man. I pray he is so fecund, fetal limbs appear crater-like on his skin. For his penis to expand so wide, the muscles straining to relax. For manhood not to dictate a season. That the brain would rebel against the corporeal in favor of the psychic. To take the organs from the organs. Release oneself to be restored to true freedom. The vanity to believe theory is true. To believe in a limitlessness. To be used, to be replaced with another, to become that other. On the carpet under the cast of oak, an insect landed on my arm and died. Infection inevitable, my stuck mammary. To bend, to latch, lips, lemon skate to the tit, girls sent away, mothers lobotomized, water breaking over the bar stool, mermaid welded to her rock, neck repeatedly severed and replaced, to retain the holes, the places in which to disappear, to return the viciousness. I was an idiot sans gender. Now I am an idiot of a woman. I knew I didn't know, but answered the unheard questions. Knew to find the egg, to have it found, to look at its being and absence, to drown myself in a lake looking for a star that was in fact the moon, to be asked months later where the baby is when there was never a baby. to be that green-walled room with a bathroom pristine in its absence of linen, to hear music coming from a ceiling when the ceiling was not installed with speakers, to touch your middle and feel the ignorance of prehistory, to say, I do not believe you, when there was nothing to be believed. I was alone for days. I cannot disclose where I was because I did not know. The blueness of the bed's blanket, vacuous. A blueness so unresponsive to imagination that I could only compare the blanket to the sky. Thank you.
It was great. Thank you very much. I'm really enjoying the range of form and style here. Okay, I'm going back to my notes. Thank you, Katie. I turned my sound on, didn't I? Can I be heard? Yes, I can be heard. I can be heard? All right, all right. One person nodded. Okay. Julia Polyck-O'Neill, our final reader for today, whether this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are, or this morning or tomorrow night, or I don't know how the planet works really, is an artist, curator, critic, poet, and writer. They are currently the Michael Ridley Postdoctoral Fellow in Digital Humanities at the University of Guelph, and a former Shirk Postdoctoral Fellow at York University Sensorium Center for Digital Arts and Technology. Those are all very, very long descriptive terms. Starting in July 2024, they will be an assistant professor of communication and media studies at Memorial University in Newfoundland. Her research explores feminist digital approaches to interdisciplinary artist archives and intersections between archives and creative praxis. Her publications appear in A Modern. I'm not going to pronounce that big long German thing because I will just butcher it and shame all of my German ancestors. Published by the Journal for Aesthetics and General Art History. English Studies in Canada, BC Studies, Canadian Literature, and other places. She is launching Process, her fourth above ground press title, which came out earlier this year. Julia, please take over.
I'm sorry.
And save me from myself.
I need a creative bio instead of just like an everything.
I had to take extra breaths for that.
Sorry that you can't see my cover with the blur function on my Zoom, but my room is messy. So this is Process, my new chapbook from Above Ground, and I'm going to read from this, and I have a couple of other poems that I wanted to read that are sort of part of the manuscript from which this comes. But the first poem that I'm going to read, and I won't do this sort of, I won't explain everything I'm about to read, but this is a poem called Lisa, Lisa, after two of my favorite Lisas. Velvet ribbons and tender buttonhole, de-influence me, sip air, powder's gentlest breaths, its rare sapidity, surface the idle she capital, the pungency of new bloom, the rose bud, dew and warm air. This material fell down after Liz Magor's downer. Every decision I've made was deliberate. Have a pickup truck and put it in the back. Hypothetically, you are going to cover it up with stuff. I think of this as faded. Vividness is fugitive. I invite a strain of nostalgic longing. All of those things have lost their context. Intelligence in the material after Liz Magor's downer. It seems like it's infinite, but there are only 6 categories of events that repeat. Socks on and socks off, and it will be like this, a sculpture in the bedroom. It seems like chaos going on, but it's a sculpture, a life, the life of objects, socks off. We dress and undress, a life, a sculpture, a decision, a dress. It's soft, the expressive softness, a life, alive. And this is a poem that I republished in Process, the new chapbook. It was originally published in the Capilano Review in a special issue about archives. And this is called What We Can Know. Time and Mrs. Tiber, 1976. Sculpture, wooden shelf with jars of preserves, recipe box, forks, glass tops, rubber sealers, metal lids, cardboard boxes, enamel cup, tin can. 214.6 by 90.5 by 32.4 centimeters. Collection, National Gallery of Canada, Ottawa, accession number 18831. An archive is concerned with issues. We are concerned as far as adaptation is necessary, a portfolio comfortably bounded, a central metaphor vacillates, the document and its superimpositions become artifactual, a romance, a history of materials, the artifact becomes a kind of ungluing. Captions blurred, captures and omissions, authentic the traces, aptness of appearance, a material sympathy, image as is a function. In a direct way, I want the image to hold something like authenticity, desire, relationship between all parts, a successful adaptation against time. I want semiotic fidelity, romance of authenticity, setting a scene as a kind of ungluing and a fragmentation or deformance. 4 Boys and a Girl, 1979. 5 pressed components, fabric, grass, glue, and wood, 1 machine press, wood, steel, each component 30 by 179 by 46 centimeters, machine press 81 by 183 by 83.9 centimeters, Collection Art Gallery of Ontario, Toronto. It is relationship between the photographs in this portfolio were taken. Together, the components form a protective affiliation, a ritual of management, tender organic bureaucratic procedures, small systems embedded in citation, various biographies lost and hard to look at, a ritual of mourning to sort through. Artworks can become inhabited, need to be convinced the scene read or set, a semiotic act or undoing, a ritual or praxis. This is powerful. The terms are introduced and repeated. It is in motion. There is a list to be developed and attended to, some will to be relevant and some diminished to be forgotten or lost. We pare down and back until all that remains is essential. Dorothy, a resemblance, 1980 to 81. Assemblage, lead and steel, 90 by 121.5 by 86 centimeters. Collection, National Gallery of Canada, Ottawa. Accession number 28142. A harvest. We pluck meaning from context and so forth, ambition between hunger and desire. Memory is addiction to facticity. The archive is concerned with quantified wishes, the entanglements of image and documentary, a frustration to all of us as they continue, suggests something of value can be extracted, that something material can be unearthed from this ritual of memory, of wishing of objects, sighing, dreaming. As the gallery shifts from authenticity to other definitions, to other perfect systems of appetite and accepted roles that make me afraid for stability, more doubt is necessary to undo the dull production of images, the drone of effortlessness and tentative associations. The undoing of the ritual is the thing that we need, an ungluing from this relationship that is decoration. Images construct narratives, are facile and imperative. Regal Decor, 1986, installation. Hollow cardboard pillars covered with vinyl. Sculptural components made of plywood, rag paper, linoleum, photographic mural. Installation area, 900 square feet. Collection, Edessa Hendeles Foundation, now Hendeles Art Foundation, Toronto. A turn to biography is a culture. A turn to biography suggests a literacy of time, teaches vulnerability. Fall short of documenting ongoing failed notions of verisimilitude, earnest enough to admit to imagination or belief, interpretation undoing a ritual, performance collides with the truth of objects, the materials lie in their traces, the information lays dormant. Fake death, an archival tactic that tests the body. Time delimits and bodies are supple until pronounced. Not everything is a relationship. A monument is a serial object that dreams of its truth and wants to be language and origin. The body is a monument to the archive and holds information that will eventually fade to what equates to nothing, but the records will count objects in days and we will feel or know. Child sweater, 1989, assemblage, Cowichan style sweater, heron skull of cardboard and paper tape, hanging of woven paper and twine with its iron oxide red paint. 360.7 by 198 centimeters, Collection National Gallery of Canada, Ottawa, accession number 30723. Heat death takes archives. Objects are gone, the culmination that is what happens to the new. It needs change. We harvest what we see and what we know we also feel beyond what we know is authentic too. We gather objects to transport to a known or felt place. Basic material is mostly biographical. Look or feel, harder gestures towards perceive. We know little and we harvest what we see. We are prone to ritual. We have limited priorities. We disappoint ourselves with basic charm. Authenticity, a draw, is what we see and harvest. We might be more remarkable in methods and realizations versus devastating magnetisms or losses. One more artwork. Fieldwork, 1989, photographs, 10 silver gelatin prints, each 16 by 20 centimeters, edition of 3, collection of the artist. Objects necessary at discrete times, a significant assertion of value, the world, this genesis, not in the most obvious way. Images entangled with form, language and sense, an interplay between memory and ways that pictures set things up. Images can be monuments and or immaterial. An image functions as a monument. The relationship between memory and archive is more than objects. The mellifluous decay amid authenticity and ritual, documentation metamorphoses over time, assertion of value, consider scale and assignment of value. Do we stand over care while concern is blundered, or scale or memory over commodified or misfiled? And I know I'm taking up a little bit more space than I normally do, but I'm just going to read one last poem that was originally published as a Ducey poem by Rob a few years ago. It's called I'm a Rack of Lamb, and it's my most fun poem. I'm a rack of lamb. I'm Eileen Miles on a date with a couple, but you're just you. I'm Eileen Miles working at Paragon, and you're Grace writing me a poem. You like that reading Marx made me sad. You like that I worked somewhere like Marx describes. You like that I'm bourgeois but can relate to the lumpen proletariat. You like that the chances of me running away are minimal. I'm Eileen Miles giving you a hand job under the table across from a dead-looking Belushi. I'm Eileen Miles taking pills and you're a couple feeding me pills. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I've been trying to put links to all the chapbooks as people were reading into the chat. And Julia, I put the link to your Tuesday poem in the chat as you were reading also. Melissa, you are the host of the actual Zoom thing. Do we have a few minutes or are we done now? You're sort of the host of the event itself.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Please.
Yeah. Can you read us a poem since you're the maestro? Do you have a poem plan?
Plan anything, for God's sakes?
I know, I'm just bringing it up, poet to poet, like, if you got a poem, like, throw it in there,
How about?
I just called you out on like at the wrong moment after an amazing reading, but
well,
maybe
I'm willing to do that, but do we have time for some questions that would be answered while I'm looking?
Sure. I mean, I'm cool with anything. That me. So like whatever.
I have poems. Person in chat. Buck Downs. Damn you, Buck Downs. I will say it's fun to see a bunch of various other above ground authors like Buck and Aaron and Grant and Jill. We should totally do another chapbook, Jill. How many, like 40 years ago we did that chapbook? That's what it feels like 2012, 2011, something like that.
Are you
I
looking,
will-
you're
I don't
talking, you're not
remember.
looking at ones right
I don't
now.
remember when it was, but I'll be happy to send you another because I write in chapbook format all the time, so I always have chapbooks. Whereas I hear you have no poems. But
I
thank
know.
you for the invitation.
I'm cleaning up my office, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and
Melissa
me and Jill go way back.
Way back.
Yeah.
Melissa and Amanda, I'm going to ask you both, how important is sound to what you make?
Mm.
Okay, I was just posting in the chat. All right, I'm back. Melissa, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go. I was gonna ask you the same, but I would say it's pretty important. Yeah, there's like an inner sound, I think. The sound is part infrastructure. That sort of, or like scaffolding, that holds, that sort of makes itself or builds itself. And then when I go back and I guess in terms of process, that's my brain is going to the process part. I don't know if that was what your question was, Rob. So forgive me if I took it in a different direction, but
That's fine. I wasn't asking you to have a particular answer. I was asking what your answer was.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be my answer. It sounds pretty important.
Amanda, did you have an answer to that same question about sound?
Yeah. For it depends. For me, it's project by project or work by work. My works tend to be pretty different, each one. But this one is definitely very sound based, and even like, I mean, definitely as far as sound and oration are concerned, it matters a lot. And then also, I'm sure most poets can relate to this. Like, there's a particular poem I read where it says, "These jeans never fit me," and it's jeans, Genes. So in a way, that's the opposite of what you asked, but sometimes that's also a bit of a challenge, is the word on the page versus the word that I'm saying. But with this one, there's a lot of sound play, as you could tell. And I'm still exploring how it sounds, because I wrote it and I've only read it twice. So I'm still learning about the sound in this particular collection.
And it sounded great. There was a lot of play in there I really liked.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You know what I did and I didn't say is I closed my eyes while I was writing them. And so there was a lot of subconscious, and I just, towards the end of most of the poems, I closed my eyes and typed. So yeah, that's my answer. Then thanks. It's helpful to get that feedback, Rob, because it's literally the second time and I've read them out loud. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Katie, I can ask about your precision. Your poems seem very precise when you read them. Is that sort of a carved thing, or is that sort of how they emerge?
It's definitely a carved, it's carved for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I was always told to enunciate growing up, so I think I try to make my poems enunciate themselves.
Yeah, because it did seem just so precise. I really like that. And then Micah and Julia, there's sort of an overlap, and you're both doing sort of response poems. I'm going to be very inarticulate right now, but I know, Julia, you're working with elements of the archive, and Micah, it's sort of like a day-to-day sort of response. Are those fair assessments of what either of you think you're doing?
Well, I'll let Julia go first, and then
I don't know if that's a yes or a no.
no, I'd like to talk about it, but yeah, Julia, please, I'd like to know.
I tend to respond to just affective tendencies in the archive, and because I'm writing academically about the archive, I tend to sort of try to use the space of the poem to kind of feel through things and work through things intellectually and poetically. So there's definitely a sense of response, but sometimes I'll respond to an object. Sometimes I'll respond to an exhibition, and we'll think through it in terms of the archive, or in terms of the idea of archives, or archival tendencies. So it's not like the through line isn't particularly clear, but there's definitely a tendency towards response. And you probably know that more than other people, because you publish all my chapbooks except for one.
That's interesting that it's an offshoot of your other work, which is stuff like Niedeker's Lake Superior was an adjunct to her regular work. Like, she needed to process some of that material in her own kind of form beyond her day job.
I love that title. I gasped when you said that title.
Yeah.
Micah.
I love that you mentioned objects, because like, to go back to some old Williams stuff that I read, like we're an object in the field of objects. I like thinking of like books or objects as like talismans that intimate magic, and they can just hang out there, and they have light, and you want to pick them up. And that's what's difficult a little bit about poetry. It's because it's like, it's not popular, it's nobody digs it, whatever. Like, how do you pick up a book of poetry? Well, you make a cool looking object and you pick it up as a talisman, and you're like, oh, there's these poems here. It's the trick of the game, which I really dig. And so I think of books that way. Like, all my favorite books by publishers like Dave Hazelwood, Alistair Johnson, stuff like that, they made books of art, and they were poetry. And you get tricked into picking them up, and that's the kind of the probably wrong word. Rob, check me on this. Everybody else, the chagrin or the charlotte. I'm in the C's right now, but you get to do it, and it's cool to like do that. I mean, we're just the vessel, we're the conduits for the frequencies. You know what I mean? And we get to receive them and lay them down. So how can we present them to get other people to pick them up? We're not being total pranksters, but we're writers, and that's our job, is to make a good work of art. We did the work, but how does the book come out, and how does that translate so that it could actually like be in people's hands and so forth? That said, it's totally non sequitur. But process, I love process. Process is the best. I don't care about the end of a poem. I like getting there. I like the being in between, because I don't know what it's doing. I like the curious cartography afterwards. I want to be like surprised, like, whoa, was that me? Was I there? But I did that. So like, whatever. Anyway, that's my answer.
That's a good answer. We have one question from Grant before I read a poem. It is a cue for any. Do you use the visual in the structuring of your poems, projects, sequences? So that's for any of you guys, if you wish. Authors.
Can you repeat the question?
It is also in the chat if you wish to look for it.
Go into the chat. Go into the chat.
For any. Do you use the visual in the structuring of your poems / projects / sequences?
Okay, I'm going to go for it real quick since I just stopped talking. Kenneth Anger, Jean Cocteau. Boom, that's my visual. Maya Deren.
Anyone else?
I think the visual is really important to the ways that I think and structure things in general. I tend to look at the way the poem looks on the page rather than thinking about anything related to meter. I'm interested in you know, these sort of old-fashioned nature or ideas of breath and how they work with poems, but I feel like there are other poets in this event who use visuality kind of more interestingly than I do. Melissa. Amanda.
Oh, like Melissa, right? Using the full page as your canvas, which is hard to get when coming across a reading.
Yeah. Yeah, I considered actually doing like a slideshow thing, but I couldn't get my act together in time. Yeah, I think it's fun to play with that sense, with the whole page as a canvas. And this series is different from my other work in that respect. Some other work that I do that plays with visuals are ekphrastic, where does anybody know what ekphrastic is when I say that? So responding to different paintings, photography, films. I studied film, and that was what I thought I was going to do for a long time, and then photography also. But then I talked myself out of all those things and became a librarian. So now I can do all of it, which is kind of cool. But anyway, getting away from things. I like to work with visuals in lots of different ways. So poetry is a great force for that.
Okay. Micah, Jill is wondering if you can put the list of names you just said into the chat so she can.
I have a hard time being on Zoom, by the way. Like, I think I'm a little bit of a Luddite, as they say.
All right.
So it's good to do a Zoom reading and read the chat at the same time. I do it for work all the time. But anyway, I was saying Kenneth Anger, Maya Deren, and Jean Cocteau.
Okay, Jill has that. Jill's good.
Those are Maya Deren's films are like the best thing ever. And she did a great book on hoodoo and became a Voodoo priest, which is, very, very into my interest and so forth, from where I come from and so on. But Jean Cocteau, amazing. The poet as a radio, as the frequency and everything. Just, you can't beat Jean Cocteau. For me, like, I know this is being recorded. Please delete now. He might be canceled later. I don't know. But yeah, Cocteau is like super sick to me. Just amazing. So, and then Kenneth Anger, like I live right here where Kenneth Anger lived at the Russian embassy, with Bobby Boussalet, like Kenneth Anger's films were like right here. Invocation of My Demon Brother, like right here, where John Wiener's lived, right here, so I get to live by like my favorite artists, whatever medium they are. And, I take that energy every day and, I make sure to touch the house and go by this place and stuff like that because John Wiener's lived there and so did Kenneth Anger. It's I lucked out. I got to live by my favorite artist where they lived in the 50s, so I just take that energy all the time. It's all about energy, isn't it, guy? Isn't it at all?
Yeah.
It's all about energy. So that's it. Sorry, Jill. Can't do the chat at the same time.
Cocteau's amazing.
Amanda and Katie, did you want to take the visual?
Sure.
question?
I love Cocteau and Maya Deren too, and also a lot of other filmmakers, but I do have to confess that when I was in New Orleans, I stole that book from a voodoo shop, and I still, yeah.
Marie Laveau's voodoo shop?
I think so. Anyway, I
quarter.
probably shouldn't say that on record, but I just did.
Okay.
What a bad
Can't
thing
go
to
back
do.
there now.
Steal Maya Deren's book from the voodoo shop. I don't know what I was thinking. And unfortunately, I don't have the book anymore, but maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's the curse. I didn't get to keep the book.
It's a good book.
For me, I definitely am influenced by cinema, but I'm not going to go off on that tangent. Although cinema is definitely a huge, huge influence on me. But specifically with my work on the page, I'm looking at the book now, but usually I'm extremely conscious of how it appears aesthetically, and there's an architecture to that, and like a fluency in the visual of the words and the empty space. And it's kind of weird because a lot of the poets that have influenced me wrote using typewriters, and at that time, you know, like years ago, I met with Alice Notley, and she asked about the spacing in my poetry, and she said, when we did that because of the typewriter. And I wasn't writing on a typewriter. If I do it now, it's for fun, right? But I still think a lot about space and leave a lot of empty spaces. And it's both aesthetic, but also, I think, I forget who said it, also about the breath. Like I want people to pause there or have a blank moment there. And, you know, but for me, really, I don't know if this is unusual, but each work kind of dictates its own shape and form for me. And I have common themes, but I don't think that like I have an overall way of relating to the visual. But for example, like this one, the Bodega Night Pigeon Riot one was written on the subway. So each one of these is like a view out the window. So they were really short and brief, and the empty space kind of, I think, I hate to take it like this, but kind of represented everything else outside that wasn't in that little snapshot. Yes, I think that's my answer. I'm so tempted to go off on a film tangent, but for me, the only thing I'll say is I'm a sucker for John Cassavetes, and while Mike was sharing, I was thinking, how does John Cassavetes, which is, he's not known for his visuals, but it's definitely influenced my poetry. I guess I'm going to go off on a major tangent, but for me, like humor is a big thing in my poetry too. I'm noticing that there's a lot of kind of humor that's kind of buried underneath it sometimes. Anyway, that's my answer.
Okay, Katie, have you anything that you wish to add?
Well, other than people always behave really badly on Bourbon Street, though I think stealing is fine, Amanda, as long as you don't get caught. I'm sure Marie Laveau forgives you, who doesn't need Maya Deren's book. But yeah, in terms of visual, I think kind of going back to your question about precision, Rob, I really want the work to be read as I would read it, and I do think that I structured the text in a way that it would be difficult. It's instructive in the way that it's read in terms of its breakage and what is coupled versus what isn't. So yeah, I want it to look as it would be read by me.
Yeah, and I think similarly. Like when I use the page visually, I am attending to rhythm and breath and using the visual notationally. So then it's showing me how to read it out loud. So theoretically, in my mind at least, it is a sort of a visual representation of how I hear it in my head, which is also the way I wish to read it aloud. Which is my way of introducing, I'm going to read a poem now, prompted by Micah. It is from a chapbook that came out earlier. When did it come out? I don't even know anymore. I lose track of all that stuff. It came out earlier, before. When did that come out? It came out last fall. Julia Carr and I, Denver poet Julia Carr and I were doing not a collaboration, but like a call and response. She was having difficulty writing during the COVID era. So she wrote a poem, and then I wrote a poem responding to that. And then she wrote a poem responding to my poem. And we kind of just went like that for a while. And her poems are going to come out. She's, of course, rewritten them all. They're coming out in her Omnidon book out this fall. So her poems are river, and my poems were estuaries. So I'll read my estuaries 1. the assumption of the rock face. Splice of prosodic regulation across this border of nations, an inheritance of sustained thievery. Rock face, tether, a pace and white space where the water runs a fall of legion. No longer written with one mind, certainly a quiet or clamorous desperation, held more tightly across an interpretive cue, slowly out the left temple. I can see you there, bare-faced or masked, hard-hearted, conscienced amid the unthinkable, barbed wire and nascent claws, this small, uncertain optimism, tentative at first, full-fathomed. First snowfalls, snow the plow discerns out driveway, paths of least insistence, not much left in the snowmelt. If one might ever swing northward, a spin of plagues, a pet leg, good Lord, show me the way. So I'm sort of incorporating the occasional line or phrase or word from her first poem into my first poem, and then, you know, she writes her second poem responding to this one. It was a fun little maybe what, a year and a half, with a gap of 8 months in the middle, of course. Because life happened and things happened, and I responded quickly, and then she didn't necessarily respond quickly, and then I poked at her a couple times, and then she responded eventually. And you know, I wanted to do a full book of them, and then she kind of tapped out around, like, I think 12 each or something. Like, oh, okay, and then just rewrote all the poems and putting them in a book of her own. So at least I got the chapbook out as that little self-contained whatever it is. Yeah. Thanks, Jill. It was a fun exchange. It was a super fun exchange. So I think that is it, people.
What's the name of that chapbook, Rob? Can you show us the cover again?
It is called Rivers/Estuaries. Came out with Above Ground last fall. I still have mounds of them all over the place. We had to buy a house because, you know, about a third of it is just above ground storage.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to thank you, Rob, for reading a poem. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Oh, it's fine. I just normally have more stuff around, but I'm cleaning up the
I
office.
appreciate everybody that read. It was like so awesome. Like you made the Sunday, and I get to escape beta breakers at the same time. No, it was completely awesome. Thank you.
Right on. Yeah.
And I just want to
Oh,
say,
thank you
I'm not
guys.
doing the chat thing, but love to you all. And yeah, just stoked to be in the company, you know? So let's keep in touch, you know?
It was
Yeah,
awesome.
totally.
And I
Thanks
put in the
to
chat.
Melissa and Amanda for prompting this event.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, and I have a hard time multitasking with the chat and everybody, but I did put in the chat that if anybody wants to do an in-person reading, if you're in New York, if you want to come to New York, of course, there's lots of places, but there's also a bookstore that's kind of newish. And every time I go in, I've dropped off some of my chaps. They're like, "You want to have a reading?" So, you know, it's pretty cool. It's on St. Mark's, which is also really cool.
Yeah, I'd love to do
Very
another above ground event in New York. I probably have like 12 authors at this point that
Yeah.
live in New
So
York.
just message me. You guys have my email.
Is that unnameable or is that something else?
No, it's this place called Village. What is it called? Village Works. Look it up, or I'll
Okay.
send you the link.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like a flashback to the 90s, and when I said that, they said that's kind of their intention.
Okay.
It's like in the 90s there was a lot of I mean before the 90s too, but up until the 90s there were a lot of record stores, bookshops all over St. Mark's in the East Village, and now there's like two. And one day I passed by, and this place, it's like totally centrally located too, which is awesome. And they have a
Yeah.
lot of photo books, and then a zine collection and chapbooks. And I have no idea where they have the reading, because it's a kind of full of books place, but unnameable is like that too. But
Yeah.
Unnameable is awesome too, to have a reading. The only cool thing about this place is that it's smack dab in the mid, or what I think of as in the middle of the city, which is cool too.
Yeah, I've really got to get myself organized and get another New York event. I've only done the one, and that was in like 2004
Let's do it.
through Boog City.
Oh yeah.
And the only people that showed up were
Amanda,
Canadians.
Amanda, this is a ridiculous question, but do
I
they,
love ridiculous questions.
they still have those 99 cents pizza places on St. Mark's?
They
I
have
haven't
them all
seen
over the city,
Wow.
and for some reason they have to have like the brightest light I've ever seen in my life. So I can't stand bright lights. They're all
I don't even
super
eat
like
pizza. And those are like mafia places, you know? But whatever. I just wanted to know if they were still there.
there's
Haven't
tons
been-
of them. They proliferate like gremlins. Like there's just tons of 99-cent pizza places. Yeah.
Great. So I can survive if I go there. I'm
Yeah,
good.
hell yeah. Hell
I got
yeah.
it. I got it, man. Got it.
That's what you were thinking about. Food has gotten super expensive, so that's a good way to think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vancouver used to have a ton of them too, and I think most of them are gone, or they're like $5 now or something like that.
Oh God, it's like 99-cent stores. Are the 99-cent pizza places going to be like 99-cent stores where it's 99 cents and up?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm,
I do make dinner. This is reminding me.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was so nice to meet all you guys, and I was inspired and moved by all of the readings. I can't wait. I have some of the chapbooks, but whatever ones I don't have, I want to get. And it's good to see you, Jill.
I tried to mail chapbooks to those of you who didn't have the others 2 weeks ago. Did those chapbooks not arrive?
I have just a couple. I have Katie's and Amanda's, but I don't have Julia's or Micah's, I don't think.
I
That
didn't
means
get
the
another
packages
package.
haven't arrived yet, so that's
wouldn't have.
frustrating.
Well,
didn't.
that was really kind of you, Rob. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing it. It's really cool.
It only
This was
really
a
would have worked
wonderful
had those
time,
packages
everybody.
arrived by now, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for this. This was great. I'm going to sign off. It's been
Okay,
wonderful
keep
to see you
Yeah.
all.
Thank you.
keep in touch, fellow poets.
Yeah, I have to
Thanks,
feed my
everyone.
people now too, I think.
Okay.
All right, take care, everybody. Nice to see
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much. It was such a
Bye.
pleasure.
Everybody,
Goodbye.
thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Melissa and Rob, for hooking it up. Bye.